The most common mistakes we see out of character characters. I'm Karen Beery with Right Now Editing, where we turn good manuscripts into great books.
And I'm Peg Thomas, multi-award winning author and editor, and we are two editors for 5 minutes. And today I get to talk about another one of the things that I keep finding, and it's sort of become a hot button for me, are characters that do not stay in character. And the most recent one in a manuscript I'm reading right now is a very strong heroine. And I like books with strong heroines. I don't want them to be masculine, but I want them to be strong. I want them to be independent. I want them to be, and this one is. I was really enjoying this character. And then something trivial happens, and really it was trivial, and the woman's in a puddle of tears. And it so threw me out of the story because here we had this strong character and you just knew she was going to get things done. And somebody said something and she's reduced to a puddle of tears. Puddle of tear characters can be good characters, but they're not the strong characters. Okay. So this woman flipped in the space of a paragraph and totally threw me out of the story. So you need to make sure that your characters are consistent with who you created them to be. And best way to do that is you need to know your characters and you need to know them deeply. You need to know their backstory. You need to know where they came from, what shaped them to be. Why was this woman so strong in the first place? What got her there? What sustained her? That's going to really color how she responds to all the stimulus, all the tension, all the drama in the story. And it will
And
help you know who she is. Now, Karen, should we put all that backstory in the book for the reader to know?
I was gonna say, you probably see me over here doing my little happy dance. Because when it comes to writing books, I don't know if we talked about this now. Peg starts with her plot, and
I
I
do.
always start with my characters. I love writing characters. And yes, nothing makes me crazier than a character who changes personalities every other scene. There needs to be some consistency there. And Peg is absolutely right. You have to understand who your character is, but that means knowing where they came from, understanding what their big struggles are, things like that. There's a lot of different ways you can do the work to understand those things about your character. But here's the trick is you are the only one who needs to know all of that. You're going to
Yes.
take maybe 10% of that and weave it into the story because we're going to see usually how that one big traumatic event impacted your character and either made her strong or made her incredibly weepy. And we're going to see that throughout the story, but we don't need to know where she went to school. We don't need to know who her best friend was. We don't need to know about her 16th birthday. You can do all of that work if you want to. It's not required, but if you really want to know your character that deeply, you can. But has one of the things, and I love that Peg brought this topic up because I'm seeing this not necessarily in published books, but I've seen it in some manuscripts recently. And I can tell when authors don't know their characters because, like Peg said, you want an excuse for your character to cry. So you just put something in there that you think would make her cry. But as we've said before, the reader is smarter than that. The reader knows there's either something weird going on with this character or, or you're manipulating my emotions because that wouldn't make this type of a person cry all of a sudden. Now,
Right. Now, a strong character can certainly cry and
yes,
will cry, but there has to be a very compelling reason to make her cry, not somebody's offhand comment that hurt her feelings.
right.
Okay.
So,
So it's not that she can't cry, it's that you have to know what would push the buttons for this strong character to do that. And you have to sell that to the reader.
and that means when you create your scenes, you have to be very intentional because if you want your character to cry in that scene, then it has to be something big. It has to be, you know, a family member has passed away, or maybe her dog that she's had since she was 6 just died.
See, that
It's
was
got
where
to
my mind went. The death of a
it,
dog would do
it
it,
has
right?
to. So you have to be intentional. You either have to say, okay, I want this result, so I have to create a scene that fits my character, or you say, this is the scene I want to happen. How would my character react to that? So it depends on where you're going to go. Because like Peg, she's kind of the plotter. So she knows this is what I need my characters to do in this scene. So she's going to come up with things that will make her characters do that. I like to see where my characters go. And I know that there's a couple scenes I want. So I say, well, I want her to do this. Let's see what happens. There's nothing wrong with either of those approaches, but you can't take the two and blend them together because then you get emotional manipulation and you're making these apparently strong characters much weaker than they need to be. And you got a little extra time here today because I forgot to start the timer. So
Oh
I don't think we went over by that long. But we've got one more next week. The most common mistakes that we see. Until then, I am Karen Beery.
no. And I'm Peg Thomas. And we'll see you next time.